Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football with £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting more and more excited slash nervous as we get closer. I feel like our team should be close to locked in, but yet there's still so much more information we need to know. So it's a bit nerve wracking, but
It is.
hopefully we will get it in the coming
I
days.
know we've really got to keep an eye on the news as well. Find out who's fit, who's playing. And also we've got a lot to keep track on in the Sky game as well. So we're going to come to that. So what we're going to do is we'll turn to your questions ahead of Saturday's start to the season later in the show. For those unfamiliar with the game, we have an overhaul or a wild card in FPL money, as it's known, after game week 4. I think that is. So we're only really interested in the first 4 game weeks. That means those are the players we're targeting. We've already had a video. Do go and have a look at that on the Fantasy Football Scout channel. Looks about the fixtures and the sort of players we wanted to target. And now it's crunch time. We're going to reveal our teams so far, and also have a brief chat about some of the changes that have been taking place since we were last here. And one of the main ones is in tackling. The rules around tackling have changed. So in Sky there are tiers of bonuses, and you get bonuses. Players get bonuses for various tiers of tackling. They've changed. Luke, can you? Is there any way you can explain what's happened?
I nearly choked trying to explain it. I shall try my best. Basically, this has come from the guy who actually runs the Sky game. In a couple of seasons now, he's been actually really really good. He actually links up with the community, gets feedback, etc. Tries to improve the game. So we sort of reached out to him, a few of us, and he's tried his best to explain it to us. So essentially, previously what we had is tackles were only counted if the possession of the ball was retained in some way. So if you slide tackle someone and the ball bounced away or it went out for a throw in, that technically wouldn't count as a tackle. So what people were seeing on a lot of these apps that track these sort of things, like passing and tackles throughout the game, is that it'll be slightly out. So they'd be sitting there thinking, well, why isn't my player hit tier 2 bonus? He's got 5 tackles according to this app, but it wasn't matching up on Sky. So I think they've just tried to simplify it. So they've gone from successful tackles to total tackles. So it doesn't mean that unsuccessful ones count. It just means that ones that don't retain possession are now part of the equation. So as a result, they've now bumped the threshold slightly as well to account for the fact that it's slightly easier to achieve it. However, going by the data that he's provided us, they've obviously looked into this in quite some depth. So if we go by last season, you only needed 3 tackles, and bear in mind they were successful tackles. 460 times this was achieved over the course of the season for tier 1. So now under the total tackles, and they've bumped this to 4 instead of 3, the metric was 461. So it literally changed by one person. So there's almost no change there in terms of the points we should be seeing anyway, according to that data. However, when you go to tier 2, so tier 2 was previously 4 successful tackles, and there was 213 of those across the season. So obviously a little bit less. Now it's on total tackles, so you have to hit 5 of those instead of 4. It's now gone to 340. So there's been an increase there of around 130 times that tier was hit. So what that says to me is, if you're one of the elite tacklers, such as Wan-Bissaka, as we know, you've got a higher chance of achieving tier 2.
Okay.
However, if you're just a person who's occasionally picked up tier 1, it probably shouldn't affect you too much.
Okay.
So we're not really much different, I wouldn't have thought. It's just that those guys who are very, very good at tackling have probably got a more assured route into getting 3 points, almost like the Van Dijk gets the passes pretty much every game because he's an elite passer in a passing team, or Laporte. You would have thought the likes of Pereira, Wan-Bissaka, etc., who were very, very good for tackles anyways, will now nail down that 3 points a lot more often, because they probably were getting 2 when they would have got 3 previously, if that makes sense.
So what I've got on the screen now is a list. It's some of the data that will help with this change around tackling, and this shows those who make the most tackles and those that win the most tackles. So that's an indication of who is good at tackling. So it's those elite players you're talking about. Wan-Bissaka, 152 tackles there, 129 of those were won. I mean, he's superhuman with tackles. But then you look at someone like, Ricardo Pereira, indeed, 172 tackles, loads of tackles there, and 119 of them won. This is great. But then we're looking at that, trying to get that tier 2 for these tacklings. Then you look at Moutinho, 186 tackles, but just 93 of them were won. So the percentage-wise, so that would indicate. But there is a deeper look at the stats we can do. I haven't done that. I had time this morning to do that. But within the members area, what is the metric for those who are members of Fantasy Football Scout? What's the sort of metric that Sky players need to look at, really? Is it tackles won and possession retained? Would that be right?
So just tackles won, I think, is the one to go by because it combines the both. But if you actually go into the members area, you can break it down. If you go to a stats table and you compile your own stats table, it gives you the things you want to tick. I mean, I've done one. I don't know if it's up for public viewing, but I may change it to public viewing. So if anyone wants to go on there, they can have a look. But there are, for example, you can break it down by tackles won, no possession, tackles won, possession. So that is in there. There's tackles won, net tackles. There's all sorts of tackles going all over the place. But for me, I mean, in this table I made it from restart. So 30 to 38. I sorted it by minutes per tackle to see who's getting it the most often of all players. And obviously this is going to be dependent on how often they actually play and stuff as well. But the likes of Ndidi is basically number one for Leicester, which shouldn't be much of a surprise to anyone who knows about these sort of things. And I mean, there's a few surprise names in there. I mean, I didn't once consider James McCarthy, who's also on your list there, who does get a lot of tackles. You know, again, it's one of these things where it's great, but in isolation, if you're having a player that is only getting those 2 tackles, their ceiling, those 2 or 3 tackle bonus, their ceiling isn't that high. Ideally, for these players, you want them to be very, very cheap to want to include them, or at least come with that passing bonus as well. You know, often in the past, we've talked about it many times. There's these players that manage to hit both brackets and have a chance at either. James McCarthy's not going to be getting passing in any world I know of, so I probably wouldn't touch him. But, you know, indeed he can occasionally, but there's been players in the past, and Harry Arter, there's been a number of them that can hit both. Even Seri for Fulham in his first few games did get them before, and there's been a number of others on. So for me, if you're going for a player who is looking at a tackle bonus, I don't want that just in isolation. So I may as well address this now, actually. Allen is a new signing for Everton, isn't it? So everything points to him being one of these potentially elite tacklers.
Right there, writing down Allen on my notepad.
So I mean, I think in the Champions League, I've seen it floating around. He was averaging around 5 tackles or something, which obviously is a very good competition. And that's a pretty good return, isn't it? So I would expect to see tackle bonus from him regularly. You obviously have to bear in mind there's a chance of yellow cards there. But will Allen be getting passing for Everton? I'm not so sure. And then you look at his price and does he have an attacking returns? And suddenly I'm not overly keen, if that makes sense, because you could probably get someone around his price, like I don't know, say a Tierney or something, who could occasionally get tackles, could occasionally get passing, but he also has that clean sheet chance in those games. So he's got that extra ceiling where, unless Allen's banging in a couple of goals, it's not probably on my radar. It's just a little bit too expensive for me.
Okay, now we do have a question a bit later about Allen, so that pretty much answers that, but we'll come back to that as well. And I think with Everton, they've got a new midfield, so this pre-overhaul time is quite a good time to have a look, see what's happening there, and to see if how the midfield is gelling, and who indeed, if it is Allen or another one of their teams, their teammates there, will actually get those tier bonuses that we're after. Now, people who are coming into Sky new will probably think, why the hell are these two guys talking about tackling for so long? Because that is basically a big part of Sky, is understanding those tiers and trying to target players that you might traditionally think are quite unfashionable in FPL, like the great Harry Arter, who are in fact absolute legends in Sky. There's been another change as well. Just when we had all our deadlines sorted, well, for the first 3 of those first 4 game weeks done, they went and changed it again. So what were the key changes that you noticed when they changed the deadlines, and how might that affect us?
Yeah, so I don't think this is even completely finished yet as well. So, well, in fact, I know it's not completely finished. So we're going to have our wits about us again. There doesn't seem to be too many issues with the first week. I think that has largely stayed the same. They've moved some of the times of some of the games, but it won't really affect us. Obviously, we're most concerned about the first kickoff of the day and whether we can see their lineup, but also what day the game is on, because obviously that plays into captain selection and things like that. So, for the first week, I think we've kind of escaped any changes. However, the second week is quite significant. I mean, actually, no. Let me go back to the first week. I did miss the fact that Chelsea has now moved, hasn't it, to 8:15 on
Yes.
Monday. So, whilst I wasn't planning to bring in a Chelsea player on Monday night, I was probably just going to start with one. Some people might have been planning to bring one in and look at the team sheet. Now it's not going to be possible because it's moved to 8:15, so you're not going to get to see that Chelsea lineup. So I would suggest, obviously we're going to wait for Lampard's press conference, but you're going to want to make your decisions before that day. I would have said whether you're going with a Chelsea player or not. And I imagine most people are going to want a Chelsea player unless they're looking at a Wolves captain versus Sheffield United. And obviously Werner's looking the popular choice at the moment, but there's people like Ziyech and Pulisic and stuff where people might have waited until the lineup and then brought one of these guys in, which you could do if you wanted to. So yeah, that's kind of changed that a little bit. And also in game week 2, this one's probably the most significant for me. The Arsenal versus West Ham game, I believe that was on the Sunday previously, and it's now moved back to the Saturday. Now, I'm starting with Aubameyang. He'll be my captain probably in the first game versus Fulham on game week 1. In game week 2, he was going to be my captain on the Sunday, probably. He's now moved to the Saturday. So, again, he will still probably remain my captain. However, the interesting thing there is Man United also play at home to Palace on that day. And a lot of our planning involved around possibly starting with a Man United player, which I was starting with Fernandes, just so I wouldn't have to waste a transfer bringing him in, mainly because I could captain Fernandes in that game. And of course, that's a fantastic game to captain him. But now we've got Aubameyang as an option to captain at home to West Ham. I suppose there's an argument of, do you just avoid Fernandes? Because really, we're only getting 3 games now. We were always getting 3 games, but the allure was really to add in that really elite captain at home to Palace, which you could argue now you could just go Aubameyang instead. So I think there's a real debate there. We've got an elite player who, you could still captain, and is he worth it just for 3 games when you might not captain him? I honestly don't know the answer to that because I really like him and think he's so good. So I don't know which way I'm going at the moment. I don't know about you, Joe, but
No, well, I mean, in both of my teams, so we have we're only going to show our main team this episode, but we also, we've got a question. You can have You can have 2 teams in Sky. My second team, I'll probably go Fernandes less, which is tricky to say. But I'm gonna
split it.
Yeah, I'm gonna split it. But at the moment, he's in both of my teams because I haven't reacted to that news really, and I still sort of thought, well, maybe I would go Fernandes over Aubameyang. But then, as you said, transfers are so precious. So I think I'm gonna have Fernandes in one and not Fernandes in.
That's probably the way I'll go as well. And interestingly as well, game week 3, at the moment we've got 4 games that are set for 3 p.m. kickoffs in game week 3. Now I think there's a chance later today we may get some news on this. That was the rumor. But anyway, I can't see all of those games staying at that time. So suddenly, if they get moved to a different match day or even an individual match day, suddenly we might have to look at our plans again. I mean, I would imagine Spurs at home to Newcastle, considering they're in Europa, I don't think that was ever going to be played Saturday. I think that's going to get moved to Sunday almost regardless, as long as they progress. So that's a big captain day, isn't it? Kane at home to Newcastle. That suddenly might be on the Sunday. I would have thought it probably will be. But yeah, there could be a Friday game for anything. We just don't know is the bottom line. So we kind of have to wait fully until we've got that information to plan. And then, of course, we've still got game week 4, which is not been decided. And from what I understand, it's actually the day before the season starts. We're likely to get news on when the games are going to be. So suddenly, again, you might have to change for like a 4th or 5th time your plan. So kind of frustrating for Sky managers. But at the end of the day, we've still got a pretty close team, I think, to what we're going to go out. And it might just be 1 or 2 names that sort of change places.
Yeah, it would be annoying if we have a single match day, a rogue captain on Monday, and we haven't got that particular player that we need for that. So yeah, something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, we will know before kickoff or certainly at least an hour before the game launches, because it can be quite tricky to log into Sky just before. So let's have a look at your team then. So this is what you've got so far. So just for the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, you've got McCarthy, and then you've got a 3-4-3 with Bertrand, Robertson, Justin, Antonio, Armstrong, Pulisic with an orange flag, but there are rumours that he could possibly be ready for game week 1. Fernandes, Kane, Aubameyang and Werner, but it's Kane, Aubameyang and Werner are currently your captains for game week 1. So yeah, tell us about that. I mean, just pull out any kind of key issues, key other players you're perhaps considering in certain roles, and why you've gone with this formation.
Okay, so I think McCarthy's not really moved from many of my drafts pre-overhaul. I just think Southampton have got 4 reasonable games, and he's a very cheap price. So I've not really moved him in and around. After overhaul, I'll probably look at the likes of Pope and Ramsdale. I mentioned this before, but for now, I think he would do. The only other one that maybe could change my mind here is Caballero. I don't, if there's rumours that Caballero's starting instead of Kepa and they haven't signed a keeper, he's actually 0.1 cheaper than McCarthy. Now, I know that's a long shot, but there's a chance there. I mean, I'd switch to a Chelsea keeper for 4 games instead. They are better on the expected data for defence. So, yeah, there's that. There's also the likes of Martinez, who's 6.3 million. So if we come to that first game, luckily we do get to see the lineup. Now, whether the website works or not, I don't know. Yeah. But if I see Martinez is lining up as goalkeeper in the first week, then suddenly that's a 0.3 saving, and I get an Arsenal goalkeeper over a Southampton one, which you'd like to think is a little bit better. Certainly for the first 2 games, anyway. So, yeah, that's the only real considerations there. In defence, it's kind of changed quite a lot, actually. I mean, Vinagre was pretty much a lock for me most of the time. I mean, I may still go with him, but at the end of the day, all the rumours seem to be pointing towards he might be leaving. There might be replacements coming in. I don't think Wolves' fixtures are... I mean, they're okay. Certainly, the first 2 are a bit tough. And at the end of the day, if it looks like he's probably going to play those 2 and then maybe miss out for the other 2, then it just makes sense just to avoid the headache, I think, for now. So I've kind of talked myself out of him. I've taken him out. We've said it before. It's all about having players that are actually going to play in Sky, unless you specifically targeted that extremely cheap guy to enable something else elsewhere. So yeah, I'm just going to avoid Vinagre, I think. Justin, I feel like he's nailed for the 4 games. I'm not overly excited about Leicester's chances for clean sheets. However, in the tackles table I was talking about, when I sorted by post restart and tackles per minute, Justin was actually second only to Ndidi in the whole game. Wow. So I feel like he should get tackles bonus at least. And he's such a cheap price is really what he enables everywhere elsewhere. I mean, of those 4 games, they are very good, right? So I would hope for 1, possibly 2 clean sheets, and I'd be happy with that, especially if he chips in with tackle bonus. He looks like one of the best enablers to me in the game. Now, Robertson I've gone for just because... I could afford Van Dijk, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that you can get away without Van Dijk for the first 4. I feel like Robertson could match him. First of all, we throw in this new tackle chance. Robertson is one of the players who does get it quite often. He did benefit at least 2 or 3 times from the new tier 2 when I looked at it. It's also the fact he's just looked incredible. He's quite a bit cheaper. Is it 0.7 cheaper or something than Van Dijk? I think it's close to that. Yeah, it's 0.7 cheaper. And he's now taking corners on the left side. So for me, I feel like he's maybe even a better option than Van Dijk. Well, that's probably brave.
This is like the headline. If this was a news story, your team was a news story, the headline would be "Man goes without Van Dijk in Sky."
Yeah, exactly. Craziness, right? But I think for 4 games, I mean, Van Dijk, let's say he's getting 9 or 10 points and he gets it in all 4. Let's say he gets 4 clean sheets and he gets tier 3 in all of them, which I suppose there's a chance he could do that. Ultimately, it's still only looking at 30, 40 points over the 4 games. How badly can he hurt me in 4 games? Maybe quite a lot, but not that much. Do you see what I mean?
No, if you've got Robertson, no, because because if you didn't have any Liverpool defence cover, if they get 3 clean sheets, say, which is probably a tall order, but if they get 3 out of 4 clean sheets, then because you've also got to factor in all of those lovely bonus points. But if you've got Robertson as well, and if you think he's going to do okay for the bonus and hit those tiers, then yeah, it's actually not a bad move. And it's only for 4 weeks, isn't it? This isn't, you're not set up for the season here.
This is it, and I've got a suspicion that Liverpool might not get as many clean sheets as we think they were, just the way they've been playing. So I feel like Robertson's my safety blanket. I'm kind of covering them just in case they do. But at the same time, I've got the guy who's got a better attacking output than Van Dijk anyway, or should have. Obviously, Van Dijk can pop up with a goal, can't he? The Bertrand one is more, the Vinagre has morphed into Bertrand. I'm not overly excited about this, but again, Southampton have got the decent clean sheet chances. I've sort of doubled down with McCarthy. He is better for attacking output than Carl Walker-Peters, who's the exact same price for some reason in this. Bonus-wise, he's not overly bad. He can get the odd goal as well. So he's kind of my enabler. I've moved from all of the cheap enablers, really, aside from Justin. Yeah. And there are a number of them still out there that could end up in my team. I mean, another one I just want to throw out there now is Saliba. If we get to see the lineup and he's starting, there will be a temptation for me to pick him. What I might do is similar to what you've said and have a split team, have a Saliba team and a non-Saliba team. Because today there's rumours that David Luiz has hurt his neck.
Indeed, yeah. It doesn't look... So, that came from, I think it was David Ornstein and he's usually very reliable with news from Arsenal. So that does look like, Luiz could be out, potentially for that game, but potentially for the period we're talking about here in Sky, those first 4 game weeks, that'd be...
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, with Saliba, he's almost at that price where I just said, where he's so cheap that even if he only plays 1 or 2 of the games, and to be honest, he'd probably only want the first 2 games from Arsenal, such their fixtures of the first 2 are better, that he could be worth it just for the 2 games because of what he allows elsewhere. So again, I'll probably split that. For now, in my main team, I've played safe and I've gone without him. In midfield, Antonio's been a lock throughout. I don't really care about... I know there's troubles potentially at West Ham. I know their fixtures are pretty bad. I know all of this stuff, but... I just think that price is absolutely crazy and he can make a mockery of it in any game. In fact, in the first game, he hits 2 or 3 goals. That's me sorted for the 4. I'll take that, even if he blanks in the next 3. So I'm happy to take that. Armstrong is probably one of the better enablers. I'm wary I've got 3 Southampton in my team, but I feel like Armstrong is one of the best enablers at the moment. There's a chance that he gets subbed off early. There's a chance he gets 2 points every week because midfielders do that. But I'm struggling to see a better alternative. So he's kind of in there mainly as an enabler as well. I do have a little bit of money in the bank. And this is really to afford Pulisic, who, to be honest, if he's not going to play, or I'm very much waiting for news on this, if Frank says he's not going to be playing game week 1, then he won't be on my team. And then suddenly I'll have a bit more money to upgrade both of these 2 probably. Not upgrade Pulisic, sorry, downgrade Pulisic and upgrade Armstrong. The other person I kind of like, I don't know what your thoughts of this are, but Rodriguez from Everton, he's kind of teasing me a little bit because he's 8.8 million, which is probably a little bit more expensive than I wanted. But I feel like as we're going to be having the overhaul in 4 weeks, Everton have got good games. He's obviously got this incredible star quality and a new player. So for me, that stinks of man of the match straight away.
Yes.
And all set pieces, you would have thought, possibly even penalties. I don't know.
You would think. The thing about, the last time I really saw him was when most people really saw him, which was 6 years ago in the World Cup.
Exactly.
But time has marched on. And I'm not saying he's not a fabulous player to have, but he's a wait and see for me. He's a post overhaul player for me. I want to use these matches to see. I don't want to leap in. Possible in my B team, I might take a punt on him, but he's not someone I'm particularly looking at. It's a sort of awkward. I don't really like that price. There's a lot of choice of midfielders around the 7.75. There's a lot of choice of defenders around 7.75. But then then you're starting to move into the premium category, and then he's sort of hovering around in the sort of, well, he used to be good, and perhaps he might still be, and so that says to me, I'll have a look at him in overhaul.
To be honest, I have no idea how fit he is either. So this is going to come down to if the manager suddenly says, Carlo Ancelotti suddenly says that he's fit, he's raring to go, he's looked great in training, he's going to start. I might be tempted, but I can't see that being the case. Nah. So
it'd be really annoying, wouldn't it? You watch the match, this enormous fat bloke waddles on, and they go, "My God, is that him?"
Yeah, exactly. There could be a chance of that. So yeah, that's very much an information-based one. I'm going to wait on it. But my alternative plan right now is if Pulisic isn't fit, I will probably move him to Doherty. As obviously, I can switch him to a defender, and then that'll give me the money I need to do something with another player, be that Bertrand or Armstrong or someone. I'm not quite sure. Again, we're all not sure on these things. The other option now, which is thrown into the mix, I mean, this draft was done a couple of days ago, is this Fernandes thing I've talked about. He's currently there. He probably will stay, but I'm going to have a look at what I can do if I don't go with him. The problem is I don't know which midfielders I would actually pick if I didn't go with him. That's the problem. Again, it comes down to this Chelsea thing. At the end of the day, if Ziyech and people are all fit and Havertz is going to start and all of them, there's an argument that you could ignore Werner or maybe go Werner as well and pick a few of these, because I think Havertz, Ziyech and Pulisic are potentially all underpriced.
Yes.
And Dele Alli has also popped up into my thoughts as well at 9 million, and then you could go with him instead of Kane. I don't know, and then you can have Vardy up front instead. Again, it saves a bit of money. There's lots of thoughts.
That comes back to Rodriguez's price point problem there. He's just below all of the players you just mentioned. If I wanted to go for that, I would, go for someone like Havertz, who's 9.9. That's an easy move down if you wanted to use those transfers. But we don't really want to use too many transfers.
No.
Overall.
Other names that I'm just going to throw some names I thought of. James Ward-Prowse is 8 million, maybe a little bit safer than Armstrong. Could have penalties. He's a thought set maximum. Is obviously a name who's got some good fixtures. Harvey Barnes, another one that I've had in my mind. There's a whole host of options here. Nothing of those is set in stone. The only thing that really is close to set in stone at the moment, anyway, is my front line. I haven't been tempted really to move away from Kane, Aubameyang, Werner. The whole Aubameyang to Kevin De Bruyne move is on in game week, the end of game week 2. That's still in my mind, leaving that 0.1 in the bank to make sure I can do that. The only other thing I've really thought about is, can I cover Werner with a load of Chelsea midfielders? Probably not going to do that. Can I cover Kane by going with Ali instead or Doherty? Probably not going to do that. And now allow me to have Vardy, but I'm not overly sold on Vardy. So I think I'm just going to keep it like it is up front. It's midfield where I'm really not 100% settled and things could change.
It's like last year, isn't it? Struggling from you got KDB and then Fernandes came in, but apart from that, the rest of them were like it was all the defenders and attack. And okay, I'll put my team up because it's similar, but there are differences, and it's definitely not set in stone. And so I've got McCarthy in goal. I also like Southampton's early fixtures, and I think they could offer defensive returns. I've gone for Van Dijk because it's Van Dijk, but you have teased me with Robertson. I've gone for Stevens in there, just as a sort of a placeholder. But yeah, I do agree that I think Bertrand could be a better option there.
Possibly a little bit safer as well because they've signed that new centre back. I think Stevens will play, but they have signed a new centre back, so I would say that Bertrand's
just looking
probably
at
a little bit
sort of
safer.
prices. So I think I'm going to go for a double Southampton defence. I'm going to go for that. I have got Doherty in there. The Aurier role, the Ivanovic role, basically whoever's right back in a Mourinho side. Was it Ashley Young at Manchester United? Whoever is
in periods,
whoever is right back in a Mourinho side just bombs forward, and that's what they do. The left back, less interested in them. So Doherty in the Aurier role, he's kindly priced. He's 8.6. He's been in there for ages actually. Justin as well. I think post overhaul, no, because Pereira will probably be back, and Pereira will be a player who's almost Van Dijk-like in his ability to pick up some tier bonuses there. So yeah, Justin I think could be good for the first few fixtures. And in midfield I've got him for 4-3-3. I've got Fernandes at the moment, and he will stay in one of my teams. I've got Armstrong as well. I think that's great value, as you say. Similarly priced, I've just put Fraser in. I don't even know if he's going to start game week 1. Fraser and Wilson at Newcastle says to me, historically there's been goals and assists. So I don't know. That place is up for grabs, and I might go for Antonio. That's another option there. Up front, as you were, Kane, Aubameyang, Werner, Aubameyang to move to KDB after game week 2. I have 0.1 in the bank. KDB is 11.5. Aubameyang is 11.4. If you want to make that move, do not go into this with 0 in the bank, because you will have to make 2 transfers or not make that at all. So have some money in the bank, and that's something that when you play the Sky game is really important to do, is to plan those moves in advance and make sure you've got the money in the bank. And there's no price changes in Sky as opposed to FPL, so that can be done. As I said, with this team, there's a few players I'm really keen on, and I'm going to keep: Van Dijk, Doherty, probably Armstrong, Kane, Aubameyang, Werner, and then everything else is up for grabs really. And I think after we've spoken, I'll probably go away and change it. But yeah, the Fraser role, not sure. Jack Stevens, that's just a placeholder. I will have a bit more research into that.
Yeah, Bertrand's 0.1 cheaper.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, your team is pretty much the same as mine. If we swap, if Pulisic isn't playing, I'm going to change him to Doherty, and then we've pretty much got the same team. The only thing is you've got Fraser, where I've got who have I got in there? I can't even remember now. Antonio, that's it.
And I might indeed change to Antonio, so then we will have exactly the same team.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning, isn't it? But yeah, obviously these things, we've still got some time, haven't we? And there's other names. I mean, there are a few other names, and we got some questions on some of those players, and I've considered some of those as well. So nothing is set in stone at this stage. We're very much relying on these press conferences. I just think for me, if Pulisic is fit, that price and the fact that he gets shots on target nearly every time he plays, he's just such a good option to have, I think. So that's really in my thoughts.
I originally, about a week or so ago, I had Ziyech in my team. I think at 9.4, it was quite nice, and I could move away from him down to, say, for example, an Ali, or indeed Pulisic if he was fit, or indeed, I don't know, Mason Mount if none of those were fit. Mason Mount was back in, but there were options with him there. But then he went and got injured, so in a way, better for Sky managers that happened before game week 1. Because he probably would have been in my side otherwise. Let's have a look at some of those questions that we've been asked as well. So Benny Blanco asks, pre-overhaul to Bruno or not to Bruno? Is 3 games from him better than 4 games from another player? Well, I think that question we've sort of answered that question, but it's sort of got a different answer now. And I think you're looking at 3 games, but 2 captaincies. And is that worth a transfer? In Sky, we have 40. It's still 40 transfers, isn't it?
Yeah, still 40. I wish it was more. The amount of match days we get.
So yeah, I look at that with 4 transfers, and I think I want to keep. I don't know now. I really don't know with Fernandes.
I'll tell you what's going to decide this for me more than anything, right? First of all, if you're happy to captain Aubameyang at home to West Ham instead of Fernandes at home to Palace, then fine. You can probably go without. However, when we go to game week 3, Man United are away to Brighton. So not a fantastic game, but a game you would expect Fernandes could still do pretty well in, right? So he can be your captain. On that same day, there's a lot of dross playing. The only other real games that stand out to me, at least, are Spurs at home to Newcastle, right? But we've already mentioned this is probably going to move. So suddenly you don't have that option. And then there is Chelsea away to West Brom. Now, at the moment, that's for 5:30 on Saturday. And it's on Sky Sports, so I would expect that stays. So really, the question is: are you happy to captain Werner against West Brom, which could be very, very good?
I think I could be. Yeah.
So, or did you want Bruno as captain away to Brighton? So for me, I probably am edging towards Chelsea on that one. So again, do you really need him? And then finally, it's going to come down to that final week where we don't know the games. If suddenly Man United are at home to Spurs and they're on their own or in a day, then you probably are going to want him again, aren't you? My answer, although it's not great, is Fernandes has the potential to outscore a lot of the midfielders, even if you're not captaining him, even if it's 3 games. But if he has got a captain thrown in there somewhere, then it's almost a certain for me that I will go with him in some way, shape, or form.
Well, this ties in with another question. Benighted, is it worth... Benighted, that's a person, by the way. Is it worth deploying different strategies with your 2 teams, given the Manchester clubs come into the game late? I say yes. And it sounds like you might think that way as well. I am going to have a Fernandes team and a Fernandes-less team. Because with the Fernandes-less team, hopefully would go into the overhaul just using that 1 transfer on moving Aubameyang to a Man City asset. Just bear with me a second while my dog stops barking. Right, stopped. Just marked it down. So Yeah, so and I think that is a really viable tactic. Last year, my teams were different, but one of the key differences, one of the main differences with them, is that my sort of B team, I held transfers back a bit more. So by the end of the season, we were on this show, and I was splashing the cash out there, for, getting, I'll get this player in and this player. My main team, I couldn't do that. I only had like 1 or 2 transfers left. But I had about 5 or 6 with the other one. So, and that's what I'll do. I want to sort of save a back transfer type team, and that could be a nice tactic. Because if you run out of transfers with one team, at least you've got some. Your other team may not be doing so well, but at least you've got some kind of impetus to play. But yeah, is that, I don't know, any other thoughts you've got on 2 teams? What to do that's different?
No, I think this kind of forced my hand. I mean, I've said before, I've previously gone with a complete block, be that defence or the whole team. Even you can, for example, pick virtually the whole Southampton team. So let's say you think Southampton are going to have a flying start. They're going to win all 4 of their games. You can go close to having nearly you can have every player in your team, but you probably want to cover some captains. So there's an eggs in basket approach. I still haven't ruled that out.
Yeah.
I've also not ruled out picking the exact same teams and just splitting my captains, see which team does better, and then that'll be my main team.
Yeah.
But I think with the Saliba and the Fernandes, basically the Arsenal team sheet with the Martinez, Saliba, even Saka, and the Fernandes issue, which isn't quite solved, I'll probably do that route that you've just discussed, where the teams will be quite similar in the main, but maybe a couple of little differences with Saliba and Fernandes, probably. We're going to get the information the day before the season starts, so suddenly it might come back around again where there's an obvious plan, and therefore my teams will match up again with different captains.
Yeah, I think it pays to sort of think about the different scenarios, because you might have to think quickly for this. Hornet asks, what do we know about Alan? Could he be a good asset at 8.1 if he gets tackle and passing bonus? So we've sort of addressed that. We're fairly certain he's going to be an elite tackler, but we're not so sure about the passing. And if he ends up with both, then get him in definitely post-overhaul. Yeah. But it could be worth a gamble pre-overhaul.
This is it. I'm not so sure about him as a passing player in the Everton side. I mean, the end of the day, we've had Idrissa Gueye before, who was fantastic for this. He was another of these Harry Arter type who was very, very cheap, and he did get tackles a lot, but he also occasionally got passes. So it's going to come down to me as to whether he can get that passes or not. And I'm more prepared to take the chance going without and then address it later if I need be. He could be a fantastic enabler. The thing is, at 8.1, I think Tierney's the same price, who could also get both those maybe, but also has got those clean sheets like I've thrown in. Whereas is Alan going to score 2 or 3 goals to match Tierney's 2 or 3? I don't think he's going to get 3 clean sheets, but let's say he gets 2 or 1. Alan would need to get a goal to match it. So
it's a wait and see for me. FPL Norman Conquest just wants to remind people that you have to opt into the cup this year. There's a button to press it, he's just done that. He's just offered that reminder for everyone there. ARFF asks, what do we think of the Chelsea defence? Azpilicueta or James look good? I must admit, Azpilicueta was in one of my drafts, and he still could be, and I think, but I'm not sure, and I want to go probably post overhaul on one of those 2 because he's quite kindly priced. James could be amazing value as well.
Yeah, very much so. Aspie's been fantastic in Sky for a number of seasons now, just because the bonus points, tackles is often assured with him. Passes he can get. Chelsea were one of the better teams for passing last season as well, so I can only see that improving with the likes of Thiago Silva and just generally better players in their team. I really do like him. The thing is, I think he'll probably start left back. The rumours are he'll start at left back and James will start at right back. But then as Chilwell gets fit, it's anyone's guess really as to what happens there. I would have thought Aspie will just move to right back and James ends up on the bench, sadly. But there's also the option of 3-5. I mean, Lampard's played with 5 at the back before, hasn't he, quite a few times? Yes. So no one really knows the answer to that. For me, I think Aspie is a fairly safe pick. I do like that quite a lot.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably play all 4, and therefore it makes him a very good option. Yeah, he's in my thoughts.
Yeah,
James isn't as a result.
Yeah, he's 9 million, Azpilicueta, and James is 7.8, which is great value for a defender in Sky. So, I'm probably going to swerve both pre-overhaul, post-overhaul. I do want a Chelsea defender, so I'm going to go there. And K1000 asks, are we diving straight into Chelsea attackers? You've got your arm. Pulisic, you've got Werner. I've got Werner. I would love to have Ziyech or Havertz. Yeah, I mean, I think you can dive straight into Werner, and I think another one possibly.
Yeah, I think they've been obviously because they're new to the league. I just think they've been underpriced really for the potential. They could all be duds at the end of the day. Chelsea could be awful. Lampard could be sacked by January. We just don't. No one knows these things. But going on what information we have so far, I can only see Chelsea improving. They're fantastic players in other leagues. Don't see why they wouldn't be. And for me, their prices are a little bit low for what you would expect. I think, to be fair to them, I mean, they've all come in one after another. If they all signed on the same day, maybe their prices would have been higher because they've all got different. You see what I mean? Suddenly the whole team's improved as a one rather than, they've improved again. I bet it's funny because their prices slowly bumped up. It's like Pulisic was 9.1, then they signed Ziyech, and it's like, oh, they've made him a little bit better. Let me make him 9.4. Oh, Havertz is signed. Suddenly, let me make him 9.9. Yeah. So I'm not sure that Havertz is actually that much better than Ziyech for Sky anyway. But it depends if he's getting tackles and passes, I would say. But yeah, it kind of stinks of that to me. Is every time they sign a new player, it's suddenly like, let me put a new premium on him. Yeah.
It does. I'm looking at the team now. Yeah, it just goes up. It's a sliding scale of excellence. 9.1 Pulisic, 9.4 Ziyech, 9.9 Havertz. If they sign another fantastic midfielder, then we're probably looking at 10.4 for them. So,
exactly.
And so on. I mean, where will it end?
They're rumoured to be signing a new keeper, aren't they? So I wouldn't be surprised to see him same price as Alisson, for example, or something silly like that. I think you go straight into it. The games are good enough. I feel like they're okay, and certainly after overhaul, if they're showing any signs of being good, I will look to cover 2 or 3 just because the price is so cheap. I really strongly feel like the Man City, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, I mean, it's not groundbreaking stuff, are going to be amongst the highest scorers, so why wouldn't you try and cover these teams offensively?
Yeah, definitely. And just before we go, I just want to say thanks everyone for all your questions, and good luck with the start of the Sky season. Before we go, also want to have a quick reminder that the Fantasy Football Scout members area is full of useful stats and information for Sky managers and FPL managers alike. We've also alluded to that with the tackling stats there, so lots on offer, far more than we could show on the screen today. Do check out the website for details. But for now, Luke, thanks for joining me, and good luck with the first game week of the Sky season.
Thanks, Joe, and definitely good luck to you because I think our team's going to be pretty much exactly the same. So hopefully that will fall back on me as well.
Excellent.